Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And please continue to follow and share this commentary and information with people that you love and you think will find it informative. And so if you follow me, I've been talking about the state of Alabama and how archaic and draconian many of their laws are. And there was a particular issue with how the treatment of inmates has been taking place, let alone the treatment of living inmates, but now the treatment of deceased inmates in their custody. Families of Alabama inmates allege organs were removed without consent as expert eyes wider problem. So inmates are dying, being taken to the morgue, and their organs are being removed. A lawsuit filed by the family of a deceased Alabama inmate allegedly sent home for burial without his heart has given way to potential class action from several more families who said their relatives' organs were removed without their knowledge. So these inmates have died in the custody of the state of Alabama in prison and these facilities. And when they are going back after, when the state of Alabama is returning the relatives' body to the body of the inmate to the relatives, the inmate does not have any organs. They're removing their harvesting organs. The initial December 2023 complaint filed on behalf of Brandon Clayton Dotson's family names as defendants the Alabama Department of Corrections, senior staff at the agency, and the University of Alabama at Birmingham's Hersink College of Medicine, which conducts autopsies for the prison system. It's where families suspect their loved ones' organs were sent for educational and research purposes. So without consent, these prisoners are dying and their organs are being sent to the UAB Medical School without the family's consent from their relative that died in prison. Despite the Dotson's family's demand in court for the immediate return of Brandon Clayton Dotson's heart, authorities have been unable to account for the organ for more than 70 days. When the family realized that Mr. Dotson didn't have his heart, when he was at the funeral home, they called his family to let him know that all his organs weren't there and his heart was missing. And then the Dotson family reached out to the state of Alabama, and they still haven't sent back the man's heart in 70 days. That's almost 3 months. Since that, 4 more Alabama families have approached the Dotson's family's attorney, Lauren Farino, saying their loved ones also had organs removed, in some cases, all of their organs. Farino says she believes the missing organs are absolutely part of a pattern as she works to build a class action case against the DOC and school, University of Alabama Birmingham School of Medicine, for unauthorized organ removal. The latest case is the family of Kelvin Moore, 43, doubts the DOC's claim that their relative died of a fentanyl overdose. He died of fentanyl while he's in prison. But after their family's mortician informed them that the majority of his organs were missing, they were left with no means of verifying his cause of death. Moore was on the phone with his mother just an hour before a prison chaplain at Limestone Correctional Facility called to inform her that he was dead, his brother told Fox News Digital. So he had been on the phone with his mother just an hour before, drops dead, and from fentanyl, they claim. When the family's funeral director called UAB's pathology lab to inquire about the organs 6 days later, this is on Mr. Moore, he was allegedly, the funeral director was allegedly told someone from the funeral home could come retrieve them. Funeral director gets in touch with the UAB medical school pathology lab to come pick up Mr. Moore's organs, and they said that somebody could come get them. Within an hour, the family said the same prison chaplain called to ask whether their family would consider donating Moore's organs. So within an hour after Moore died, the prison chaplain was trying to get them to donate Moore's organs. Wow. It seems like obviously that the prison system and UAB medical school are into organ harvesting and organ stealing. My brother said, "What do you not understand? We do not want to donate him," said Simone Moore recalled. "We feel helpless knowing that they went in his body and removed his organs. That is the most barbaric behavior that anyone could go through. It's repulsive, it's disrespectful, and we're outraged." Simone Moore said that unwilling to trust anyone else with the task, he and his sister retrieved Kelvin's organs themselves from UAB's facility and drove home with a heavy red biohazard bag. They said, "We are driving with my brother's vital organs, or it could be water, or it could be socks. We don't know. We didn't open it," an emotional Simone Moore said. "If we have to exhume his body, they would be there as they handed it to me," saying his organs would be there. This is unbelievable. It is incomprehensible, inconceivable that someone would go that far to take their organs out of their body, Moore's brother continued. Even if they had a reason, a biopsy or an autopsy, why wouldn't you put the organs back? And then you got another case where, and so then Moore comes, the family said that Moore comes from a Baptist family that is under the auspices that whatever you came into this world with, you go back with. Charlene Drake, here's another one, whose sworn testimony is included in court documents for Dotson, said that her incarcerated father, 74-year-old Charles Edward Singleton, was returned missing all of his organs except for his eyes after his November 2021 death. So Charlene Drake is in on the lawsuit with Brandon Dotson's family, the 42-year-old that died before Mr. Moore. So Dotson and Singleton, Dotson was 42, Singleton was 74. They're in on the lawsuit when they realized that their family members, one was a brother and one was a father to two separate families. They're in a lawsuit where their organs were missing, and now Moore's organs were missing. And they said that despite numerous calls and voicemails to UAB's pathology lab, she said under oath her family was never provided with an explanation of where his organs are. This is her father. A third family from Tuscaloosa, whose relative was also missing all of his organs, has approached Ferrino, she said. A fourth family, like Moore's, also received organs back after requesting them. Attorney Ferrino said they are awaiting results of DNA testing to determine whether they are the correct set. So in this fourth family, the family realized the organs were missing. Then UAB sends some organs back. But how do you know if there's even that person's organs? They're playing all kind of crazy. This is crazy. Typically, forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Boughton, who's a nationally known pathologist, told Fox News Digital, organs are removed during the autopsy process and placed into the body cavity for burial. Inmates must be autopsied if they die behind bars. Bodden said, unless a judge accepts a family's objections to the process. Dr. Bodden said that typically only small samples of internal tissues are retained by coroners to conduct post-mortem testing. Attorney Ferrino told Fox News Digital she anticipated having to make this call with many families, insisting that each one has a right to know where their relative, the inmate's organs are, and if they sent them back, are they the correct ones. UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham, which carries out many of the Alabama DOC's post-mortem examinations, previously told Fox News Digital it had reviewed records which show that UAB did not perform Dotson's autopsy. He was one of the first guys who was missing his heart and brain when the family got his body and they were sending it to the funeral home, and the funeral home director let them know that some of his organs were missing. That was a 43-year-old gentleman. The Alabama Department of Forensic Science carried out Dotson's autopsy and also is named in his family's lawsuit. However, according to Attorney Ferrino, other inmates whose families have come forward were autopsied by the school on behalf of the DOC, and none of those inmates were organ donors. So they're removing inmates' organs without them checking off that they want to donate organs. It is unbelievable. The lawsuit cites an alleged recent history of the Alabama DOC providing human organs and tissues to medical students for laboratory exercises. Based on the numbers, we have the numbers of autopsies that have been compiled by the university and the revenue that they make from the prison. There have to be dozens to hundreds of families impacted, said Attorney Ferrino. A group of medical students approached the school's medical ethics board back in 2018 with concerns that an alarming percentage of organs used in pathology classes were coming from Alabama prisons. So the medical students were aware that evidently it made local news that they were taking anatomy and pathology classes on deceased Alabama inmates. After bringing their concerns to the medical ethics professors, the students were asked to devise a presentation for an ethics board. In response, the students told Fox News Digital they were given a pat on the head, but from that point forward, they said far fewer details about the cadavers used for their pathology samples were shared by instructors. Prison wardens are authorized to sign on organ retention after Alabama prisoners' autopsies, the board wrote in the decision letter on the group's findings. And no more than 1/3 of the organs used in any given teaching session was sourced from inmates. They considered it offensive that we would suggest that a warden would not have the best interest of an Alabama's inmate in their heart. Really? We never took issue with the performing of the autopsy, students say. That's a clinical duty. We took issue with the retention of samples after the clinical duty was completed. In a statement to Fox News Digital, a university spokesman said UAB only conducts autopsies after obtaining consent or authorization from the appropriate state official and is in compliance with laws governing autopsies. Regarding the students' concerns, the spokesman said that they were informed by inaccurate data and information, which was addressed directly with the students. A panel of medical ethicists have reviewed and endorsed our protocols regarding autopsies conducted on incarcerated persons, the university told Fox News Digital. The Alabama Department of Corrections could not be reached for comment before press time. And in 2023, a record 325 prisoners died in the state, according to the Alabama Political Reporter, up from just 7 Went from 325, went from 7 to 325 in a 9-month period in 2015, reported. 2015, they had 7 deaths. 2023, they had a record 325 people that died in Alabama's prison penal system. The U.S. As a result, the U.S. Department of Justice admonished the state's prison system 2 years earlier for incarcerating prisoners under conditions that pose a substantial risk of serious harm and death. So the Department of Justice has been investigating the state of Alabama's prison system for inhumane living conditions. And as a brief note, in the early 90s, the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office was sued for removing brains from more than 2 dozen deceased people and sending them to the University of Pennsylvania's medical school without familial consent. Thousands of families in the United Kingdom sued the country's National Health Service for retaining their loved ones' tissues and organs in 2009, according to the National Library of Medicine. So this is something that has been going on for many, many, many years and decades where, and I was always curious, where did medical schools get their cadavers from? It never was at the forefront of my mind, but I know several physicians and have them in my family, and that is a curiosity. Where do they get these available bodies for gross anatomy and for pathology? And evidently, the state of Alabama is sending deceased prisoners' bodies over to UAB Medical School for laboratory and scientific purposes without consent. And then I guess they thought once they removed their hearts and lungs and vital organs, that when the state sent them back to the family members for their funeral, they didn't think the funeral director, I guess, was going to make sure that their organs were in place, or they were closed off appropriately for them to have an open casket viewing of their deceased loved ones. There are too many variables in this, and there's philosophical and humanitarian, moral and ethical issues that are all intertwined in this. I would be very curious to what you think. I think people that have made mistakes and have gone to prison still are human beings and deserve a second chance, even though our United States penal system is not a place for rehabilitation. It's actually a learning and tooling ground to become even a smarter or worse criminal. That's why the recidivism rate is so high. Something like 85% of prisoners that have done over 5 years end up getting reincarcerated at some point. You have a revolving door, and the passivity and negativity that we have between correctional officers, starting at the governor's office all the way down to correctional officers, the inmates that are doing life and doing long stretches. There is a negative aura and an inhumane existence that takes place in these prison systems. And in the state of Alabama, they also have miscalculated, and they have sent deceased prisoners before the parole board and have denied them parole. And there's been a few ex-prisoners that have been deceased for several weeks, and the parole board was not even aware of it. So they must have very archaic and draconian computer systems in 2023, 2024, where they don't know who is viable and alive in their prison versus who is gone, been released, or has died in their prison system. And the rumor statistically is that they're at 168% capacity. They are already at the top and overflowing with way too many prisoners. This sounds just like an abomination of inhumane disrespect for the entire system. It would be tough to be a correctional officer there. Just think if you had to manage, you're at 168% over capacity. So it's dangerous for you as a correctional officer. For anybody that's there, whether it's an inmate or the people that work there. And I think the governor is a female governor. I think her last name is Ivy. People need to write the governor's office. It's important to know who your state and city legislators are, because there are more things that are taking place in your city and your state than are taking place with your federal government in D.C. And here's a clear example that people are being treated terribly, like we are in the 1500s or some kind of slave labor that's taking place. And then once these prisoners have died, they feel that the state feels that their bodies are the property of the state, the deceased body, and they can do whatever they want with it, and then return whatever's left, whatever carcass is left, to the families. Like you are catching a fish, gutting it, cleaning it to prepare to eat it, and then even though they're not eating these people, but I think you understand my example, that these people die, they have an autopsy done, and if there are viable organs, they're either being used at the University of Alabama Med School for scientific research, or they could be using them at the hospitals for transplants. Organ transfer and organ stealing and organ harvesting can go in many different places in this black market, and this has been going on for a very long time, along with sex trafficking, kidnapping, and people disappearing. They are doing this right under our nose in the state of Alabama, which is definitely killing the tourism. And I would not want to move to Alabama if you have these kind of archaic and draconian laws on the books where you are treating people, your own citizens of the state of Alabama, like this. I don't even want to visit the place. So this is not shining a good light on Alabama. They need to get it together, and the governor needs to get it together at the top all the way down. And this is not an appropriate way to treat your inmates or your citizens of the state of Alabama. This class action lawsuit is going to make a huge difference. And I don't know if Benjamin Crump is on this, but you get some of these big time lawyers to start suing the state of Alabama and their Department of Corrections. You already have the U.S. Department of Justice in on the inhumane conditions. But once these lawsuits start piling up, you're going to see some of these facilities close, and there's going to be a redirection into the right direction, hopefully, for treating these prisoners with some kind of humanity and grace. Thank you for listening to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.